John Beck, realistic graphics is the auto-tune of video games.
And it's messing with the economics of video games. I mean, you got to keep in mind, the way the video game industry has always worked is there was always some Peter Molyneux type who was out there wheeling and dealing, selling the snake oil, over-promising. Because the idea is, as much as we hate it, they have to get investors, especially for big games that cost this much. We're talking about just generic video game development now. And at some point, it became untenable. And so a bunch of, I think part of like COVID really was like a giant brick wall that sort of economic model slammed into. I honestly need to do a rant about this at some point because too many people only understand in really general terms how video games get made. Not enough people know enough about the ins and outs to really know, like, hey, why was the industry so susceptible to all this ESG funding that ultimately can be traced back to communist China? Like, why were they taking that money? A lot of it has to do with COVID, which is pretty suspicious because what country leaked COVID, right? But a lot of it is because of COVID, right? These companies had already sold these game concepts. And so there was this whole crop of video games that were greenlit around 2019, 2020. And then COVID hits. And now, okay, the investors have already invested in this game. It's going to come out. But now you're going to have to work on it remotely and whatever. And you got to, if there's cost overruns, and spoiler alert, there's always cost overruns on a video game. I just talked about producing a comic. If there are cost overruns on making a comic, there are definitely cost overruns on making a multi-million-dollar video game. When that happens, they're looking for other sources of income. And what's the easiest money just laying out in the open? ESG, DEI. Bridge, all that stuff. But there's strings attached. Oh, you gotta, nope, sorry, you gotta go through with a checklist. You gotta have one black girl boss. You gotta have one same-sex relationship. There's gotta be a trans character. Gotta see a trans flag over here, right? That's where that money's coming from. So the economics of the way video games get made have a lot to do with this. What we're really witnessing is not the death of the video game industry. What we're witnessing is the death of that business model. And that business model was in place for this game that we're playing here today, all the way back in 1999. So one of the reasons this game I mentioned on the previous streams that sadly got nuked by the bad latency gods is that this game was probably the one that got the biggest marketing push of all the MechWarrior games. And why was that? Because MechWarrior 2 was a world-smashing hit. It sold PCs at the yin-yang. It sold graphics cards. One of the reasons we have dedicated GPUs in PCs today is because people bought them in droves so they could be able to play MechWarrior 2. It was a huge, huge hit. So when that was a really big hit, got all those expansions, it triggered, I mean, Earthsiege, Heavy Gear, all those games came out because of sort of mechsploitation that happened in the 90s. So obviously there was a lot of hype for MechWarrior 3. So the hype man behind this game got a lot of investment from Microsoft and people were willing to spend more expecting to make their money back. And actually this game was a little bit of a sales disappointment from that perspective. It was not as successful as 2. It should have been. It's a better game than 2, but